Welcome back to Mind Your Biz. My name is Seth, and in today's Creator Highlight episode, I've got two individuals who are not just creators, but also builders. And normally, yes, I know you've seen sponsored content on the channel before, and you're asking, Seth, if they're builders, what are they building? And is this a sponsored video? Well, I can tell you right now before we jump in, no, this is not sponsored, and what follows, if I say anything weird, my guests have not screened my comments, and they have not edited this video after the fact. So you know, everything you hear from this point forward is all real. Speaking of real, I've got two real ones, one by the name of FIDDY, another one by the name of JAKEB LIVENGOOD. Gentlemen, welcome to Mind Your Biz.
I appreciate it.
Hey, thanks, Seth.
Yeah, no. Hey, my pleasure. We had a blast in Denver. Really, highlight of my time there was the podcast booth that FIDDY was helping with. So he was like my fixed point. He was like my rock going through that event. And then JAKEB LIVENGOOD, who as a host, Jake, you blew my mind with how you worked the podcast booth and helped everybody at the table not just feel included, but contribute real value. Man, you have a gift for drawing that out of people. So I still find that remarkable in terms of my visit to Denver for ETH Denver this last year. So I'm really glad you guys made time for me. Thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, it's just great to carry on the conversation and dialogue, especially about what we conversed before, prior to. And as you were saying, this is 100%, you know, unscripted and whatnot, unedited, so raw. And yes. Just a little bit of background about me. I am FIDDY, known as the Cipher 150.pls, and I have created the NFT Oasis, BoltEVM, and I also have a bunch of different other accolades behind the scenes as an audiovisual technician as well. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, I think we discovered in Denver that we both suffer from bad gas. It is gear acquisition syndrome. So,
like gas fees?
Yeah, that too, right? Yeah, bad gas has a couple of meanings in this space. But JAKEB LIVENGOOD also, please tell the folks about yourself who don't know you.
Yeah, sure. So Seth, first off, I want to say I really appreciate that compliment. It's so genuine because I'll be real honest, I was extraordinarily nervous. I've been on many podcasts, but I've never hosted a podcast. So that was my first time sort of managing the flow of the conversation and making sure everyone was getting their word in edgewise. So it's awesome, a great compliment. My name's JAKEB LIVENGOOD. I am a tech entrepreneur that started in e-commerce and then went through social media. I've amassed myself 322,000 followers on Web2 platforms, predominantly TikTok and YouTube, followed by Instagram, and then got into crypto and started building and being an artist and a creative, and found a lane that made sense in sort of education. I like to use the model of valuetainment, like Patrick Bet-David, where I'm sort of entertaining but educating and making art at the same time. So that's sort of my background and how we got here with Pat.
That's amazing. I definitely appreciate that. And what's funny is that, like you were saying also before, like being nervous or whatever, man, you could have fooled me. The way that you were handling those groups in the podcast booth and the nature of the questions you're asking and the fact that you're so emotionally present and available for your guests. That is a skill that most people have to develop over time. So when I say it's just a natural ability in your case, I hope you're catching my drift, that it is really genuine, legitimately. Anyway.
He hosts a podcast as well outside of we're building on Bolt, and he sort of like found a passion for it after ETH Denver. So yeah, it definitely is something he's carrying on doing. So yeah.
Okay, amazing. That's amazing. Because seriously, based on my experience with you, I would love to see you get paid to do that every day because there was so much passion. But we'll see how that shapes up for you guys, right? So Godspeed to that. Right. Let's talk a little more about the what you guys were telling me about in a second. We're just gonna. We'll preview here, BoltEVM.com. We are going to take a look at this. There's a little visual aid as well. So we'll come back to this little teaser right there. But first, before we do that, thanks for telling us, the Mind Your Biz audience that maybe doesn't know you guys very well, a little bit about yourself. Let's talk about who Pat and Jake were before crypto. And I know you might have to stretch back in your mind a little bit, memory banks. But who, and we'll go back in the same order. Pat, who was Patrick? Who was FIDDY before FIDDY? Who was Patrick before any exposure to crypto at all?
Yeah,
what did that guy do?
Yeah, great analysis. So before I pretty much fully got involved in the entire ecosystem full time, I was an audiovisual technician working in the DMV area, going from 5-star location to even tiny small startup offices doing tech support AV work, pretty much like setting up truss riggings, piping in cables and running power lines, gas taping, everything. Also, I was an A1 technician as well, so I would like mix down audio levels and compress audio levels in real time and mic up clientels with lavalier microphones. Give them the wireless microphone that they needed in order to conduct and present, as well as manage their projectors at the same time. So that's a little bit about me before I got involved in crypto. And I sort of like merged all my passions from like AV, computer science, game design, etc. And I sort of like created BoltEVM along with the NFT Oasis. NFT Oasis is a startup that I sort of co-founded with some pretty big heavy hitters in the blockchain space. We ended up raising like $4.5 million from 32 different VCs led by Blockchain Capital. And yeah, after I took that exit, I was like, never again. I am not raising VC ever again, ever again. So yeah.
Hey, so quick disclosure. My team is occasionally raising VC for other people, and I have to disclose that while we're on the topic. So if you're a VC watching this, or if you're thinking about like contributing VC to the blockchain space, I don't think that 150 is telling you that you're like whatever inherently evil. Or that you have
no, not at all. That's not. It's just not for me and my vision of what I want to build in this space. A lot of people are going to take VC in my network, and I do not want to say that taking VC money is a bad thing. It actually amplifies you, allows you to go further, faster. So it's actually a beautiful thing. But personally, the way I want to build, like I want to keep control over it, and I want to build something that I want to take to the grave with me, that I don't have to worry about exiting ever, because yeah, it's all about permanent data. You know what I mean? Immutability, and it's something that I want to do too. You know what I mean? I want to just make products for other people and service other people. I also want to do what I want to do in this space too. So yeah,
amazing. Yeah, I love the clarification there too. And Jake, let's talk a little about you. Who was Jake before cryptocurrency? Not the how did I get introduced to cryptocurrency. That's an interesting story, but that's not the one that we're going to talk about today. Who was Jake? Just like all strings detached from crypto. Who was that guy?
Sure. So I started into the workforce ASAP, and my first job was McDonald's, and you gotta love Mickey D's. Throwing it back. I don't eat there anymore. Okay, I'm not on that. But I went to McDonald's, and then I got into college, and I was studying business management on a full ride honor scholarship for academics. Big fan, super happy about it. But then all of a sudden I lost the love for it, and I figured, sort of like Neo in the Matrix, I felt like I was being dumbed down to be a cog for the Matrix, not talking down or disparagingly on anyone that desires to get a degree and go down that rabbit hole. Just wasn't for me. And in that, I quit everything and decided, because I love Gary Vee, shout out Gary Vee, big fan. He said, you got to document your life on social media so that you can build a personal brand, which ultimately will become a media company. Started building that, and I just really fell in love with that. And that opened up doors and avenues to then start a tech company that was based in Silicon Valley, and I helped that scale on social media up to 1.2 million followers, just using my skill sets of short form content creation and as well as community engagement strategies. I sort of took my love for public speaking and educating people, and I brought on a small group of artists and case studies that I then helped build their own personal brands. I figured the best way to make a strong, self-standing organization is have a foundation. If you have one gigantic pillar and a bunch of little pillars, it's not going to work. So I figured if I can make a bunch of leaders that all have their own personal brands independent of myself, then the ship will float. A rising tide raises all ships. And so I sort of found a way to leverage all my passions and what I deemed to be my gifts at that stage in my life, which was 22 years old. And I was like, yeah, sure, maybe I can make this happen. And it seemed to just open gates and doorways to keep making that happen. And then I sort of fell out of love with that because, I I got my rug wings, right? Yeah, if you've ever heard of those, I built up a company and then found myself all of a sudden at ground zero, floor zero. And I was like, all right, well, now we need to restart. And that's when more doors and more opportunities. When one door closes, another door opens. And then I got connected with some people in my warm network that said, hey, I really think that you need to pivot this direction. And, I think the big key here is don't think you're the smartest person around. Surround yourself by people that are a heck of a lot smarter than you. And when they tell you to jump, you say, how high?
I love that. No, definitely love that. I mean, we got some mixed metaphors there, but dude, they're not lost on me. This is the right way to look at it. Surrounding yourself with people that are smarter than you. That's the whole reason you two gentlemen are here, by the way. So thank you for that. Appreciate you going out of your way to help raise the IQ of today's show. But let's talk a little bit about past getting into cryptocurrency. So everybody has their origin story in crypto, right? So they take the sensibilities, a bit like how you two gentlemen had from before being in crypto. You had work experiences, and some good, mixed bag, like everybody, right? Some good, some bad, and you brought them in with your own professional sensibilities, your own background, and then you were able to apply that in crypto. And everybody always says like, oh yeah, so and so told me, a cousin or a friend or whatever, or I watched it on like CNET or something, like saw it on a website, or I guess Slashdot was a big one for a lot of people. They ran a really high traffic article about Bitcoin back in the day. But I find that list interesting. What I want to know from each of you, and let's go back in reverse order now. Start with Jake this time. But what for you was the point of no return where you realized like, nah, man, there's a massive vortex, right? A black hole. I'm on the event horizon and it's drawing me in. There's no turning back. The rest of my life involves blockchain or crypto somehow. Jake, what was that for you?
So it goes back. So before I was intro to crypto, to preface into that event horizon that happened, when I was in college studying business management, I really, really, really loved micro and macroeconomics. Big fan. I like numbers. I'm a numbers guy. And so we were talking about money. And this was 2017 when this was happening, early 2017. And I was talking to my economics teacher, and she was talking about the M1 and M2 money supply. And, everybody's sort of drilled down, not really paying attention. It's a 7 a.m. class. Most people are not really paying any attention. I raised my hand, and I'm like, so if I'm grasping what you're saying here, effectively, the US dollar is not real. It has no tangible intrinsic value. It only has value based on consensus of the crowd of the people that are using it, because it's not really backed by anything, and the Fed can just print it to a gazillion dollars. And she was like, well, I mean, I'm an economics teacher, so I'm not really supposed to concur with that, but I mean, kinda, yeah. And so keep moving along. I got introed to ETH first later in Q3 of 2017, but it was the event horizon for me was in 2021, talking to one FIDDY here, Pat, and he showed me, he said, look, you have tangible knowledge of ETH and Bitcoin, but what if I could show you, sort of offering me the red pill, what if I could show you a broader horizon, a bigger world of decentralized finance as a whole, where you can play blockchain games, you can have a blockchain social media network, you can have all this stuff that's on open, trustless digital ledgers, and this is actually backed to digital money that is tangible, finite, and has real value, unlike fiat, which, if you listen to centralized media, you're told fiat is crypto and the fiat is real money. So it was at that moment when I went down that rabbit hole that I realized, okay, wow, my entire life I've been taught that money is what it is, and it's sort of bass-ackwards, and it's not that, and I should sort of reframe everything, forget everything that you know, to then rebuild a foundation that's not built on quicksand.
Right.
Yeah, amazing. Okay, so it sounds like you kind of took the hard money, or sort of orange pill first. It's kind of how you got introed. Was I guess a lot of, if any Bitcoiners are watching right now, they're very proud, right? Where they realize that the thing that really helped you kind of convert totally, fully into blockchain tech and into crypto really was this concept of Bitcoin, or at least fixed value assets, durable assets, versus the M1 and M2 money supply. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah. Well. So I figured that money, the US dollar fiat currency, wasn't backed by anything. It can be printed into oblivion, and depreciation is going to destroy the lower and middle class and melt them out of being able to afford to exist. And then when I was initially shown block explorers and deeply explained crypto and blockchain outside of just, oh, you can have this digital money on your phone that you can buy, and then you can hold it and it's going to go up and it's cyclical just like Forex, I realized, okay, now that I understand that this can be pegged to anything, it can be pegged to a video game and the in-game currency is actual crypto, it's actual money, or this can be pegged to a blockchain that's associated with a social network so that I'm allowed to say whatever I want, given that it's not, hate speech or crazy stuff. I can say whatever I want against the establishment, and it's not going to get censored and gotten rid of because, hey, you're supposed to be a good little boy. You're not allowed to talk about that, which I experience a lot in Web 2 platforms. When Pat showed me all that, I went, okay, this is opening up my eyes to the fact that maybe the money that I've been thought that is the way that you're supposed to trade and barter is actually the fake money, and it's completely vice versa of what I've been taught my entire life. And this was at 22 years old that I realized, okay, wow, I'm playing this game of life, at least financially speaking, wrong.
Got it. Okay, so it really was like a much more existential thing for you then. You really did have like a Neo Matrix moment, like with your mind locked. That's awesome, man. And I think everybody in crypto wants to hear that. But thank you for sharing that. Like that's amazing to know, and it helps inform a lot about what we'll talk about in the next few minutes. But let's turn back over to 150, right? So, Pat, for you, the point of no return, right? Where you just knew.
Well, let me just precurse though. Can I precurse before that? So back when I was a little kid, back in elementary school, all my friends were pretty much like playing this game in the computer labs and in like the classrooms called RuneScape. It was old school RuneScape. And literally we would even like trade and barter like school lunch for like digital coins in RuneScape. And I was like, wow, that's interesting. You know what I mean? Like I pretty much became like obsessed and hyper obsessed about it. And then I found out that while I was playing World of Warcraft as well, that there was websites that you could just like sell your RuneScape gold and your World of Warcraft gold and your Diablo 2 gold for Bitcoin. And I was like blown away. I was completely blown away. And at that point, I just became something that I became like hyper obsessed about. And like I just constantly played video games and would like, pretty much PvP and PK and like grind with my guilds and stuff and sell it for cryptocurrency on the back end, on the low, behind the scenes. Like sometimes I'd buy digital currencies for different games too, as well, just like exploring different game titles with cryptocurrency, But I'd say like where I knew that this was bigger than gaming and when I knew that this was actually like going to consume my entire life was when I just so happened to discover Steemit. And like I was really diving deep into like the Discord rabbit hole of all these different like tokenized assets, and I was just like reading all these white papers, and I actually had the means and the money to like invest in these projects like early on. Like I got into Matic like way below a penny, like way below a penny, just as an example, like dude, it's just crazy just like seeing how this whole space like evolved though over time. But like I'd say like that was the event horizon for me, like 2017 bull market. Like that was like the event horizon. Yeah,
that's amazing, man. Yeah, no, I mean, what an amazing time to get involved too, because you've been able to see a full cycle and a half, right? We're steadily heading towards the next kickoff of a bull run and approaching the next halving, right, in under a year for Bitcoin. So we'll see if all those correlations hold up, right? Those fractals that you've been able to observe firsthand now. We'll see how they hold up. That's awesome.
Absolutely. And I do believe that like this space is going to have longevity and is actually going to like surprise a lot of spectators that really don't understand like the origins of the asset class and how people were utilizing this as a currency that could transcend borders through cyberspace long before anybody coined the term metaverse with blockchain technology embedded, So right. It's just a beautiful time to be alive. And like the gaming industry can seek validation, external validation from this asset. And, I noticed that like a lot of like power players in the corporate space, like they try to write it off a little bit. Like, the thing, it's okay. You know what I mean? It's a toy money. And like, sure. And they kind of want to like pick at like certain aspects of the industry and claim that like, it's, a lot of hogwash. And I think it's best that you just sort of like zoom out and then like sort of see all the different angles to this market and just sort of like fully digest it and understand that like this technology is creating a zeitgeist. It's enabling people to create assets in real time with their friends, So yeah, that's That's all I have to say about that.
No, it's amazing, man. Yeah, phenomenal time to get involved. Let's talk a little bit about as far as getting involved, the two of you and this new platform, BoltEVM, because that's primarily what we're going to be talking about today. So let's switch gears here just a little bit. We'll get a little visual aid going right there. If on the stage on the screen as well. So anybody who's curious, of course, you see a link down in the description, as with all the videos. So if you're curious, please follow along. Please don't shut down this video for it. Watch the entire thing, but follow along in another tab. But what are we looking at here? What is this? What is BoltEVM?
So BoltEVM is a digital representation of what the EVM would look like if it were a nightclub. If you could literally have your own virtual nightclub that has a hookah lounge upstairs, it has screeners all over the wall, right? And also screeners in the center of the actual event space. But then also you could run a blockchain behind it as well. We have a governance model, which is utilizing our meta keys, which if you want to contribute to the entire ecosystem, you need to acquire a meta key that will give you access to the core root files. It gives you the ability to commit on the GitHub, and it also enables you to obtain various other expansion packs that we release to the general public first, early. Various different events are going on in this space, including the one that we've got going on, the Purple Lambo event, which is something that we're doing with our community. We're hosting a meme competition for the people who aren't sort of content creators in the form of trading or making beats. And yeah, for the most part, I just realized I put meme competition on there twice. You can go to Memester, and also you can click through to Beat Battle. I have to put the Beat Battle logo up. So we have a beat battle going on where you download the samples, and then you can sort of submit the track and win about 100 USD on Pulse Chain. Really just sort of coalescing talent, bringing more talent awareness to the sort of Pulse Chain ecosystem, right? From main chain. Sort of hey, come here, make a track, and then you can earn on this chain and get involved in our community. So far, we've got one submission, and there's traction there. And yeah, at the moment, it's just a matter of sort of tapping into Memester as well and creating a meme post. If you've got a lens profile, of course, you can generate one over here, just sort of tapping into this community as well. But at the moment, there isn't really any body making memes on Memester at the moment. But I've seen my friends make memes outside of Memester, and they're probably going to upload them into Memester right before. But yeah, Memester, if you didn't know, is a meme generator utilizing Lens Protocol and Polygon technologies, tokenizing the creation of memes, proving that you made a meme first. Because a lot of people, they steal memes. So
No, for sure. Here's the thing. If you're not, when it comes to social media in particular, if you're not cheating, you're not trying, right? So, yeah, good memes get copied, great memes get stolen. Just the cost of doing business, but if you can prove that you did it, man, I'm all about that too. That's great, especially if you can attach royalties. That's awesome. So let's talk a little bit about getting to this point. And I mean, either Jake or one both wants to jump in, popcorn style, just go out of here. There's been some big wins and milestones, and maybe even a couple of lessons you learned along the way getting to this point with BoltEVM. And of course, there's the opportunity for you to brag on achievements. And maybe if you want to direct me, I can bring some stuff on screen as well to show it off.
Yeah, Jake, please take the floor on this one.
Yeah, so what actually happened was we were actually invited to the, I'm sure you're familiar with the Gala ecosystem, and for those that aren't, that are viewing it, the Gala ecosystem is it's a multiverse Web3 platform that is based around music, it's based around blockchain gaming, and it's based around talent acquisition. Sorry, I was going to say content, but talent acquisition. And we were invited to the Gala Music launch and got to showcase to a lot of people that are already large Web2 figures that have pivoted upon realizing what's possible with blockchain technology. And from that, off that, we were able to launch an initial event, including several A-list DJs that are in the EDM sector, right? Obviously, it's a club. We've utilized our connections in the EDM space to bring a lot of cool talent, bigger names than either of us. And so with that,
we can name so far, but sorry for the interruption. Now Now you got me super curious. You're hinting at like.
We've worked with Autograph. We have a unreleased set that's that privated from a guy named BT. So we've got really cool talent that are literally main stage EDM or EDC DJs, like big guys, world travelers, and they love what we're building. Obviously, the actual graphics, the GLB packs of the world, that was Pat's brainchild. Being a VR avid enthusiast, he's the one that brought me into VR and said, "Hey, look, this is something that you can do and have a blockchain behind it, and it'll make it really cool." And with that, we have a lot of really big constituents that are actually a part of the community, meta key holders that are large figures in the Twitter, or I should say XO-sphere, or whatever you want to call it, now that it's been rebranded, that are in so many different niches, which is why, like what Pat said with the initiatives we have going on, it seems sort of counterintuitive. Why is there a meme contest, a trading contest, and a beats contest at the same time? But it's because our community is so wide, it's so vast among all sorts of different levels of creatives. Like, you can be a creative that just makes short form vertical content like me that's educational or fun or artistic based. Or you can be someone that is actually a music producer. You could be someone that is a trader and you like to scalp markets, and because they're cyclical and you can make a lot of money that way. But we have so many different people across all different subject matters that we like to engage them all at the same time. I like to think of myself as sort of a multi-diverse artist where, I love trading. I also love content creation. I don't make music, but I vibe out to music and create art around the music. So it's sort of a secondary thing. But yeah, I mean, that's what comes to mind for me.
For sure. Not only that, speaking of which, when it came down to launching our Bolt token, our Bolt social token on Pulse Chain, we saw an all-time high of 150K market cap after Jake just so happened to go and speak to B-Roots, the Moon King of sorts, and his entire community just came flooding in. They didn't actually utilize the tech. What they did, they were excited about the token, and they did the Rexes. You know what I mean? So yeah, right. It was just something to just sort of rein in the project on Pulse Chain. You know what I mean? Like we're ringing a bell of sorts, right? Yeah. And the project is still up 100x, 150x since launch. So yeah, and that token is bonded and pulled with the P Lambo token, which is sort of like our token that coalesces across our entire utility token ecosystem as like a meme, because everybody wants to know when Moon, when Lambo, right? Well, yeah. Of course, you can acquire P Lambo, and you know what I mean, and pump the entire ecosystem. I kid you not, at the same time as you're pumping Bolt. So yeah, I sort of did some token engineering, and we've got an awesome ecosystem where liquidity's locked away for years, till 2077 P Lambo unlocks, but Bolt unlocks in 2032, and Giga Orb unlocks in 2026. So yeah.
Wow. Okay, so you really have set these up as almost vesting clips for yourself.
I did, yes, precisely.
They got it. 2077, man. I mean, did I dare ask how old each of you will be?
No, I didn't. Absolutely not. But the thing is that I kind of wanted to just sort of belong to the next generation, of course. You know what I mean? Okay. Sort of inheritance of sorts. Yeah. And the thing is, I believe that these networks are going to be resilient enough.
Let me ask really quickly, as far as the tokenomics go. You mentioned launching on Pulse Chain. For anybody who's not familiar in my audience, they should be familiar with the Pulse Chain explainer. But Pulse X, this is the sort of main Uniswap fork and clone that is on Pulse Chain. Yep. Now, is there any kind of a farm there for liquidity mining rewards when people stake their LP tokens for anything in the BoltEVM ecosystem, whether it's Bolt or P Lambo or any other tokens that are part of your ecosystem? Are there liquidity mining rewards on top of that?
Oh, absolutely. And you can check that out on info.pulsex.com/our pair, of course. And you'll be able to see the APR across our entire ecosystem in real time. But we've also got these other contracts and pools that I want to announce later on. But I've got a partnership with Strong Hands, and they've created the first, in my opinion, high value, great looking front end, infrastructure. And also their smart contracts are professionally done and audited. Strong Hands, a partnership, which will be disclosed soon on the webpage. we're going to have pools with them exclusively, and they want to support what we're building and pair it with not only their tokens but also native tokens and provide more yield for everybody, even outside of the PLS, just like liquidity mining that's going on.
Got it. Amazing. And,
yeah.
and is there a bridge contract for these tokens to be used on ETH or Matic or Avalanche or anywhere else?
Yeah, that's coming soon. I want to sort of ship that out like later on down the line when there's a bit more liquidity overall, and it would just make far more sense, and we can then incentivize people to bridge funds over to Ethereum mainnet. But right now, since like the price of PLS is practically dumping and the market caps of everything is just like absolutely tanking, right? I think it's just a good time to sort of like wait and see, and then sort of like do that. I really do want to do it though. Like that's something that, you know, I've got in my vision, and I want to make sure I do. Also, just in case I didn't say it already, the contracts are renounced, so I can't necessarily like upgrade contracts and change parameters of the contracts at all. So yeah, everything is set in stone.
Amazing. Okay. Yeah. Thanks for letting me throw a curveball at you there. I mean, I realize it's not important that there be any kind of a bridge contract for your project to run the way you wanted it to on its native chain. But
because multi-chain is the future, 100%. I love the prospect of that, and it's something that I really want to deploy. I can't wait because I've already bridged out wrapped ether, wrapped ether, and I saw the value, and like, you know, I was like, wow, dude, this is so cool. It just blew my mind. That was like a light bulb moment for me when I realized that PulseX and Pulse Chain isn't just noise. It isn't just noise at all.
Yeah. Well, I'm convinced of that. That's part of the reason that I did the one of the semi-official explainer style videos for Pulse Chain and PulseX. On this channel. But I digress. Let's talk about so not just some of the things that you've been building so far in the milestones and some of the wins to date and lessons. Maybe I should just ask one more deep dive question. What, between the two of you, what do you think has been the biggest lesson in building out BoltEVM? Because you got this really interesting problem domain that you identified where you were like, hey, we want something that offers function and value, but is really fun, right? Like, not enough founders do this, but you couldn't have done this like building in a straight line. What were the bumps like? What were those?
Well, I'll take this one. I think for the most part, the biggest bump was sort of like just dealing with a bunch of different egos and dealing with like managing crowds of like massive caliber, and also dealing with permissions and pen testing in real time. Because, when you have like 15, 16 real people inside of VR headsets all talking and like, experiencing the same thing at the same time, something's bound to go haywire, right? And you have to learn to diffuse the situation and sort of like create a solution in real time in front of an entire audience of people that you're also streaming out to. So yeah, just sort of managing and micromanaging certain personalities, certain streams in real time as well, because this thing is an RTMP input feed. So like pretty much I can pull a live stream from Twitch, I can pull a live stream from Rumble or Kick and pipe it directly into the world in real time and just sort of like manage different keys. And also having like the patience and knowledge to sort of like diffuse situations, right? And then actually write down the steps to do so. That way anybody can do it. You know what I mean? Having like manuals and guides and just sort of like taking things to a point where like anybody can digest it and easily access our data set. I'd say like that was like the biggest road bump, just reaching critical mass by like knowing what questions to answer in advance before the people ask it, and having those resources ready for them to tap into, so now they can access your data and experience what you've made, what you've built, which is, really important. Documentation. So
got it. Okay, so it sounds like a lot of the biggest roadblocks for you, or speed bumps for you, have been in the technical execution of this platform and having it be real time. Like you were saying, relatively high throughput, low latency, high throughput, in higher resolution settings, right? Are you supporting really high frame rates as well? Is that part of the current product?
Yeah, absolutely. So typically, depending on the hardware on the end user's side, people average in 2D anywhere between 90 to 60 frames per second, and in 3D VR anywhere between like 29 to 60 frames per second. But it also depends on the specs of the machine. So, and you're right, it actually like takes more resources the more people are in the world, and having to scale that vertically exponentially as more people are trying to get into the world and tap into your server in real time. Like, you know, some people, they're just like, oh man, my machine just can't run with this many people in the world, you know, because it's not only just like a virtual experience, it's also an IDE. There are real-time developer tools. Now you can actually build 3D model code in real time in this platform.
Jeez. Okay, got it. So yeah, for some reason that didn't really click before. That, like you were saying, there's a built-in IDE, and not only hang out here but get work done here.
Yeah.
In the same, in the BoltEVM. It's amazing. Yeah. Pardon for being like kind of dense. Like that's, I guess it's half the job of being an interviewer though, is like either playing dumb or being dumb. So.
Oh no. You're just like learning as you go along, really. Like, you know, I'm just sort of like stringing you along as to like what exactly we provide practically, you know, and that's cool because like now your audience knows too, right? Which is great. We also have given people blockchains, fully functional modular blockchains that you can just sort of run in your own virtual space. And we've got partners in the AI machine learning sector that are utilizing our worlds and experimenting with blockchain technology implementation with artificial intelligence from a virtual world. So yeah, there's a lot going on, and it's just like sort of like a parallel in which you're taking 3D virtual spaces and turning them far beyond just like, you know, a website. You're turning them into a ledger that can also be a website at the same time, and, you know, host your favorite avatars and host your favorite acts and talents, even if they aren't DJs, right? Or play your favorite movie, etc. And you can customize the space in real time. So yeah.
Amazing. And then let's talk about some of the other milestones in terms of partnership, if that's all right. And I looked at, I'm sorry, I actually interrupted you, Jake. You were going to add more.
Oh, I was going to riff on your question. To my take on sort of one of the impasses early on was, right, it's a Gary Vee quote, and it's micro patience, macro sprinting, and like it's sort of like when you're early, which to the metaverse, a lot of people they've heard of the metaverse, it's a buzzword, they're not really involved in it, they haven't played on any of these platforms before, especially not in VR. And so when we have these large ideations in the roadmap of, okay, this is what we're going to do, we're going to build, not only are we going to have a creative studio for creatives or an open IDE space for developers to build with in tandem with their friends, we're also going to have a space where we utilize this club for live digital events. When we have all this large ideation in the content planning of what's going to lay out in how this thing fleshes out into reality, and then we host an event and we have 16 people in there, and we're Pat's dealing with all the DevOps on the background of making sure, okay, we got to make sure everybody's cohesive, everything's running smoothly, nothing's breaking, which is sort of like we're doing pin testing live and seeing if we can break the world, which is what that kind of was, and it was a hoot.
Yeah, it was
a hoot for sure. But
bro, that was so fun. I literally blew up the world with a potato bomb just to see if I could. So yeah. And then
but my take on it, my sorry to interrupt, Pat. My take is like it's sort of a balance, a teetering balance of like where can we take this? How can we pivot the current roadmap to hit scale as fast as possible, when critical mass may be hard to achieve, when a lot of your what will ultimately in the long term be your prospective ideal client aren't necessarily looking this direction yet, and so you have to pivot more to lean in towards one specific granular aspect of the overall slice of the pie in order to get to another level of critical mass where you could host those events, or you could use the digital IDE with developers that are streaming across multi-platforms that have sort of a say-so in the Web3 space. You know what I mean? So that would be my take on it.
Amazing. Gentlemen, really fast, I hope it's okay. I need to run a quick word from our sponsor, the ErotaLink.
It must be your lucky day because I'm introducing brand new innovative technology to the virtual erotica marketplace. It's called ErotaLink, and it connects directly to your brainstem via a comfortable, lightweight headset. Watch me demonstrate the potential of ErotaLink as all of my fantasies spring to life in front of my eyes, completely indistinguishable from reality. Oh my, look at them prancing about. That frisky little brunette is rather naughty, isn't she? I bet she would like Daddy Elon to give her some discipline. Maybe a firm spanking. Oh yes, definitely. That would teach her the meaning of the word respect, I can assure you. So the next time you're feeling that old familiar itch, you should connect to ErotaLink. Our slogan is, your fantasies may not be real, but that explosion in your mind is, as well as the explosion in your pants. That's real too. Sorry about that, but it's part of the experience.
All right, so thanks so much for sponsoring this episode. Gentlemen, as you were saying.
Fantastic. Yeah, so we were saying about Erotica Link that yes, explosions will be happening everywhere all at once.
Guys, like, this is the reality of today's world is like almost frightening. So from the time that you started on ideation from your product till now, I mean, some of the AI self-publishing tools, some of the sort of like, 10x best practices now with developers who are using some of the APIs from OpenAI, Google Bard, whatever else. Or if you're running your own like local AI, your own local large language model and training it somehow, because I know you guys have that skill set, you'd be able to do that. It's a game changer, right? So
yeah, with like H2O.ai tools for sure.
Yes.
Like it's sort of like running like Python and Anaconda and all that stuff. Yeah, for sure.
So how is any of that?
Yeah, by the way, I'm utilizing Unity Muse. I got closed beta access right now. Shout out Unity. Shout out Unity. Hey.
Amazing. Okay, so Unity Muse is it's clearly high on the short list of AI tools that you're using to build out your current product. Is there anything else that you see by way of opportunities, strengths, maybe even weaknesses and threats that come from AI right now? Seems like it's touching a lot of different sectors, a lot of different verticals. Have you found that that's the case for you guys with BoltEVM?
For the most part, I think it's just great for streamlining content creation and getting things done a lot faster and efficiently. And for the most part, I don't like to hang my hat on it, but we did prompt a lot in our S3 hackathon, which you can sort of like see the code in real time on our GitHub of our 3D Dex prototype that we've got going on over on GitHub. So yeah, we're gonna take that and actually launch a WebGL experience for anybody to just sort of like run a Dex screener in the browser version of Bolt, having like virtual screens and charting in real time, just as like a little MVP prototype, that way you don't have to download and install anything and whatnot. And we did utilize AI for that. And mind you, it comes down to just knowing what to prompt and how to actually implement what you're prompting, right? So yeah,
Sure, that's amazing.
Product of knowledge meets execution, because
Yeah,
if you don't have the knowledge, but you still want to ask the right question, right? You might not have the knowledge necessary to execute on that knowledge that you were then receiving from that large language model. So
yeah, absolutely. And Patrick, I think that's why I was so interested in asking you and Jake about your use of AI, because a lot of people are thrown by it, right? They see it and they think whatever, it's a, some people like literally think it's some kind of fancy rock or something, and it's like, guys, you don't know. You're probably not good enough at your own craft to know how you could 10x what you're doing here, or like know what the right applications are. Like, in some people's case, I know AI is just bewildering, so they've been aloof. They haven't even tried. In your case, it sounds like you're already trying to put AI tools into their place in your assembly line, so to speak, to get the best results. Are you seeing that there's going to be an opportunity to either ramp up in AI, the sort of AI backend, anything that within the user experience of BoltEVM that might be generated in real time using large language models or stable?
Yeah, absolutely. We're experiencing that phenomenon already with artificial intelligence, sort of like tapping into our Microsoft Azure cloud infrastructure website, right? Where like the AI is able to like be an NPC and answer questions and sort of like even do block reorgs, right? Just some things that some of my partners have already experimented with inside of our virtual space that we sort of like encapsulated for them and sort of like containerized and delivered to them, right? So it's sort of like a test bed. If you think about this platform that we've created, this virtual space is like a test bed enabling developers to sort of like experiment with artificial intelligence and Microsoft Azure. So
amazing. Okay, yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I know there was.
By the way, just a bit of background about me and my AI journey. I pretty much graduated high school with AI tools, Wolfram Alpha tools, because I went to 3 different high schools across 3 different states, and none of my credits transferred, so I had to utilize AI to pass on time.
Wow. Yeah. Okay, that's awesome. Okay, so you got a very personal story in terms of using AI to get through, with Wolfram Alpha being kind of a shining early example of not an LLM, right, or a neural net, but a really, really solid sort of a symbolic system, right? Lookup table. Lookup table with its own language and all that. Wolfram Alpha is like, people slept on it, man, for a number of years. And
they've been around for decades. Like, amazing tech.
Yeah, no, right? Sorry, go ahead, Jake.
Yeah, real quick before we push on, what comes to mind with your question? It's a saying that is about money, but it can be correlated to AI. It's money is a good servant, but a bad master, and you can sub money out for AI. I think with the world that we live in, the large tech-centric world, right? LLMs, large language models, are really, really powerful, but it's never been easier to utilize a Web2 brand and utilize your credibility to make sort of falsified knowledge and teaching that, oh, I'm a subject matter expert in aeronautical engineering. And then, but I don't know the first thing about aeronautical engineering. I'm just utilizing tool sets in a way that's sort of devious to, generate more revenue yield for me. And it's sort of self-serving as opposed to serving others. So I think LLMs, with great power comes great responsibility, and you can utilize it really, really awesome if you use it as an assistant rather than trying to delve into a new situation. Sort of mind your biz, right? Stay in your own lane and utilize it as a not a crutch, but a tool to accelerate what you're doing. And in that way, I think it's really, really useful. And like Pat said, you can utilize it in all different aspects of like real world building spaces like Bolt.
That's amazing. Yeah. And I guess that's why I wanted to ask you guys also, because you have enough domain expertise, like you were saying before, that you have that posture of giving value in exchange for what you're asking of the community, right? To jump in and use it and maybe help fund it down the line, or at least, work within the tokens and help add value that way. You're delivering value based on what you already knew, the existing hard skills that you brought into building BoltEVM. So yeah, you're not whatever. BoltEVM was not the brainchild of OpenAI, right?
No, this was like pretty much thought up of from my brain, 100%. Like, I didn't prompt this idea at all. And of course, to pay respect, Robin from Ohio, appreciate your graphics. Thank you very much for contributing. And of course, I made sure she was paid handsomely up front, and also at the end of the completion of her 3D art as well. So yeah, like it was her coalescing with like the sort of like know-how and whatnot, and I was sort of like being the project manager, sort of like guiding her along, like creating the entire space, right? And also doing some like system design as well in the engine in real time. But she modeled this in Blender, and we put those Blender files behind an Arweave token gate, and also people can claim it on Tropy.
That is awesome. Okay, so I'm back on the BoltEVM.com website, and I'm kind of curious. As far as the BoltEVM.com/PLambo, that's the site that you shared with me here. Are there any other sites that you'd love for the Mind Your Biz audience to be aware of? Or I guess phrased in another way, are there upcoming big dates for the project? And if so, where would you like the Mind Your Biz audience to go to experience these updates, whatever they are? And what would you like them to do when they get there?
Well, great question. So for one, they can go to t.me/BoltEVM and join our Telegram community in real time, and then see what's going on, the deal flow, all the intel that you would find on the website is also in our Telegram to a certain degree. But also, you just go to BoltEVM.com. You don't even need to put PLambo at the end of it if you don't want to. That way you can get a brief overview of what the actual 3D models are and what the space looks like and what you can do with the technology, and also read over our Git book as well.
Okay, amazing. So it sounds like primarily Telegram is where it is like the watering hole, right, for the community. Yeah, go to the Telegram group to get the latest updates, and then check out the website. I will go so far as to say, Mind Your Biz community, please bookmark it in case there are updates that are released on the main page or differences. So that way there may be functionality at the website that people are just talking about on Telegram, but that you'll be able to quickly check in on when you're firing up your browser every day. So just something that, I know it's old school, but it still works. Yeah. You can just check the site if you guys are publishing.
For sure. And mind you, we've got a lot coming down the pipe for next year, we're going to launch this project as an actual installation, a standalone installation. We're taking the venue across metaverses, including into FIDDY, spatial, VR chat, various platforms. But primarily what I want to focus on is like building the DEX experience, turning this into like an exchange experience where people can sort of go over to the virtual space and then create a token if they wanted to, find a way to lock that token, and then start trading initially in the space in real time, all with gesture input, hand tracking input, with a VR HMD, right? Like a head-mounted display. So now people can just sort of like touch the data, and it all just makes sense. Instead of like reading web pages, right? You'd actually be like seeing digital representation of everything that you could normally do on Web 2 as a 3D model, and building out that experience. So
That's awesome.
yeah, that's a long sprint that we're starting next year, and we look to finish it before Q4 of 2024.
Amazing. And then let me ask also, so thanks for laying out a bit of the roadmap there. Maybe I'll direct this one towards Jake, but as far as the sort of the ideal customer profile for BoltEVM, who is that person? And have they already, what kind of response have you gotten from that ideal customer profile?
I'm so glad you asked that question, because go you riffed first, Pat, and then I'll follow up, because I have something to say about this. Exactly what I was thinking of.
Well, how about I'll let you speak first, Jake, because I'll you go.
I'll riff first, because you're the more tech centric guy. So from my perspective, right? Like I said, we have so many, there's a seat at the table for everybody here, right? I am not a developer. I'm not a coder. I do trade, and I'm a social creative, right? So in our DAO, we have people of all walks of life. We have a creative that has almost 70,000 followers on Twitter who is a 3D art modeler. He uses his instance, a private instance of Bolt, as a live 3D art gallery to showcase his models that are currently happening, right? We have DJs and creatives that don't necessarily throw virtual reality events where people are coming into VR to hang out and vibe with their friends, but they are live streaming out their new music drops inside the world as a 2D platform, using it as a creative 2D space on their computer that they then re-live stream out, right? So there's a space for people like that. If you're a developer, you can get all your developer buddies to build in-world 3D digital assets that you can go then render and sell as digital assets on an actual blockchain, right? And that you could even sell as a digital asset the ideation of building the digital asset in world. It sounds kind of meta, but it would be sick, right? So there's so there's, as far as the ideal customer profile, there's truly a seat for everybody at the table, right? I'm an artist where I like to do digital flow arts, and I do that IRL at music festivals, but my sort of take on it is using the engine as a creative studio where I can go live in virtual space, as well as share my art and do Q&As openly with my audience, where I'm reading the chats and I'm engaging with everybody authentically. So I'm not actually coding or developing. I'm not mixing musics or throwing events yet. But there is a space for anyone, no matter what we've thrown a lot of jargon that are tech-centric words, and you need to have some fleshed out level of intermediate understanding of blockchain to really follow along this whole conversation. But it doesn't need to be that intimidating. You can literally get in here with a computer, literally nothing about blockchain, and just have fun. Say you wanted to play a poker tournament with your buddies, you could do that, or host a movie watch party with some of your friends. You could even do that. So it doesn't have to be totally tech-centric, but we've sort of framed it as, well, we're housed for DJs, we're housed for developers and coders, and we're housed for creatives, digital creatives of all walks and endeavors and all niches, because there's a way to implement this into every realm.
For sure. Absolutely. I want to add on to one thing that Jake said, and that was about the fact that you can just come into the space and know nothing about blockchain. In fact, there are some people that come into our virtual spaces whenever we're throwing events in Bolt, and Jake asks them, "Do you guys know anything about blockchain?" And they say,
No.
"Not really, majority
Yeah.
of the time." Seriously. So the idea is building something that spans far beyond your echo chamber, where you're able to reach more people and sort of convince people who might be contrarian to your view, right? They might oppose you at first, but then you're able to shine a light on something that makes them think differently, and then the light bulb goes off in their head, and they're like, "Wow, okay, I get it now. It's just all about encryption. and making sure things are safe and secure, end-to-end encrypted, as everything should be, right? In my opinion, like nobody wants to be pen tested. Nobody wants their data to be stolen. Nobody wants their bank account to be hacked, right? No, like everything should be encrypted for the most part. So yeah, that's
Yeah, no, definitely encrypted or bare minimum, be only accessible through zero knowledge proofs.
Yes,
I'm
precisely.
totally with you there, but yeah. So that's a different rabbit hole for a different time, which hopefully we'll get around to. Let me ask Mind Your Biz community, if you like this chat with Patrick and with Jake, do me a solid, make a comment or share this across social media and tell us why you like this particular conversation. Maybe they'll come back for an encore, perhaps. You see the links down to BoltEVM and to their individual profiles down in the description. So for you, audience, it's as simple as just clicking that link. Really, it's it. And it's free, right? So click all the links you see down there to follow those guys everywhere that they are right now. But let me ask one FIDDY, Jake, what couple things. Where do you prefer to be found online and spoken to and interacted with online? And then I'll get another question after that. But first, yeah, where are the best places?
Go ahead, Jake.
I can be found on any social platform at just my name. It's JAKEB LIVENGOOD, and it's spelled just like on screen. I think my mom didn't know how to spell. She put Jake with a B on the end instead of JACOB, but that's okay. I love it. It's unique. Anywhere online there, or Dynamics Gaming, you can find me on any social platform there as well if you're more down the rabbit hole of gaming particularly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you can find me on Telegram at 150. Also, you can find me on X at 150 or TPS 0011. You could also find me as BoltEVM on X as well, BoltVR. Yeah, and also shout out to Lens Protocol, since I already said it before. Both of those X accounts have a Lens Protocol profile for just keepsake, I guess, really, and brand authority in Web3.
I mean, hey, it matters. That's the thing, right? We're moving into the era of proper paranoia, right? In terms of like authority and authorship and all that. So good for you that you have those third party attestations there. I think it's a big deal. Still, unfortunately, like we still need trust even in the blockchain world. We got to figure out what those markers are for trust. So good for you guys for having that. Now, the final question is, which question did I not ask that I should have during this interview?
Well, I mean, like more perhaps on like the vision side of things, right? Like, I'd say more so perhaps who are the other co-founders, right? Yeah, just sort of like questions along those lines, right? But regardless of which, I think you did a damn good job. Mind your biz.
Well, thank you. The reason I'm asking is because I'm trying to salvage this interview. So let's quickly back up just a little bit, and if you can quickly give shout outs to the other co-founders of BoltEVM, and then is there a page that I can show on the screen?
Oh, actually, no, there is no official page. In fact, I like to refer to my co-founders as like delegates because they were delegated a MetaKey for their honor of like starting this thing with us, really like getting the Tinder going. And those people are Michael Wing from Autograph, of course, JAKEB LIVENGOOD, and RJ, aka the Tech Shaman, great guy out of the UK, awesome in the cipher. Also, shout out Crypto Co, KOH, and I also want to shout out one more previous founder. He's a little bit controversial, but yeah, regardless of which, like he got us a really big mainstream DJ to spin in the event space and whatnot. His name is Andrew. Yeah, the cipher knows him as Wild Rogue. Yeah.
Okay, amazing. So shout outs, check. Let's talk a little about vision, and either one of you or both or just Patrick, you tell me a little more about the vision. I mean, you mentioned something the roadmap, but really do speak to me more about vision, because I didn't ask you specifically about vision. Is there a grander vision? Is there a different problem domain? Is it meant to expand beyond its current scope? And what does that look like?
Yeah, absolutely. So I wanted to allude to having this as like an actual real life installation that can travel around the globe, sort of like a 3D printed fab, where we could also like have pop-up events in real life. And I've got a partnership with the 3D printing firm that actually has like builders and agreements lined up. So we're gonna make that a reality as well later on down the line. But yeah, that's neither here nor there, right? That regardless of which, it's a very large scope, manifesting something physically from 3D G codes, right? And I think like real world assets on chain are the future. Yeah, that's just where my head's at. Thank you very much for letting me cue that.
Yeah, yeah, no, you're welcome. It sounds like real world assets, tokenizing real world assets. You're trying to go the opposite route, which I love. Sounds like you're trying to mint unduplicatable, immutable assets that can then be produced in the real, printed in the real world, which is, I mean, that is actually quite novel. I don't know of any group that has this.
Well, it's not a matter of trying, right? It's something that we've already done. And the G code for the meta key, which one second, shout out. This is the meta key, right? Which I showcased at Denver. Yeah, this meta key here, you can 3D print yourself. You can download the G code for this 3D print and start printing now. It's also, of course, the meta keys that we enable people to mint, on our website. So
amazing. That's awesome. And then, yeah, sorry, Jake, go ahead.
Where my head went, which was kind of the same thing, it's just a different way of phrasing what Pat said, was it's the why behind what Bolt was as the brainchild and what it is now and what it's becoming, which is also sort of another way of saying vision. But the way that I see it is, being a Web 2 creator that's been building for 7 years, building my personal brand, I've dealt with censorship on a scale that is absolutely flabbergasting. Just yesterday, I got a TikTok strike and an email that my account is in review for being deleted because I gave away 100 NFTs, and apparently that's fraud, which makes no sense to me. I guess it's a new thing that they updated in their terms of service. But to carry on with the point, right? It's sort of siloed in Web 2, and it's going to be like that because these technocrats that run these companies don't necessarily want to see this space flourish the way that it could, because true decentralization will be the end of the current power structure that is today. And so once they get to the point where they realize they can't beat it, they'll join it. But until then, it's fighting. It's jab, 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 jab before the right hook comes around. And so I think the vision of it is a decentralized platform that allows it's empowering digital creatives to utilize what they have as a skill set or as a passion in a way that gives them an engine on Web3 in the blockchain that they can then monetize that in a way that they were not previously able to do utilizing Web2 platforms. And it's for everybody.
Got it. That's amazing. And as far as the censorship, man, I hear you. My other channel got it got fully shut down. I did get it fully banned right when you went to my YouTube channel. It just said this account is suspended. I wasn't given a very rosy outlook as to what was going to happen. Thankfully, people came to my aid as well, and other creators, and bothered YouTube, team YouTube enough on Twitter, ironically, that then YouTube responded over on Twitter, and finally helped to reinstate that account. But I think, to be working in crypto publishing at all is to know censorship. Like, there's stuff that we see like that, and then there's stuff that we don't see algorithmically and sometimes using automation that just totally suppresses the signal, adds noise to what we're trying to do in crypto and in blockchain building. So I appreciate you both being willing to build something that's a useful alternative that is also fun, right? It's the fun that's functional, right? So that's amazing. Really appreciate your time. We're going to call it an interview right there in an hour. Thank you so much. Mind your biz community. If you're not already following, again, it's free to click those links that you see down in the description. Jake, 150, thank you so much for your time and for laying this out for the Mind Your Biz community.
Thank you, Seth.
See you guys, audience, in the next one. Peace.